This is running. Hey guys, welcome to another video of a series where I share some of my struggles with the guitar with you. Today's about a very common struggle for many guitarists, and it's like about how to build up a chord vocabulary, or in non-jazz college term, how to know more chords. It's a very common thing. I struggled with that for years. When I went into college, started playing a little bit of jazz, like for example, I knew one or two chords or one or two versions per kind of chord type. For example, C major 7, I kind of knew this one and I knew this one, and that's all I had. So whenever there was like more to do with it, I just couldn't. I had to jump down here or I had to jump up here. So I did a bit of research at the time, and I did what many people did. I got a book about chords. This one, Ted Green's Chord Chemistry. And I don't want to slag this book at all. I think it's an amazing book. It's a great pond of knowledge where you can always drop in and find something new. If you look at the book, the typical kind of page in the book looks like this. So it's kind of full of like a million chords, and I always struggled to kind of work through that. I might pick one or two chords from it here and there, but then I just had this weird chord I could fit in. It had nothing to do with all the other chords I knew. It was just like this one weird thing. It was kind of obvious, maybe not for everyone, but for me, that it was like a chord from a book. And and I also struggled kind of just tackling it, because there's so many chords. How do I just learn one chord per page every day or every week or a page a week? I just never really got to grips with it. And that's why I want to share, for me, a better way that I found out to tackle those chords. And it this way not only helps you to work through a certain type of chords, it also helps you to kind of make sense of them musically. So the way I do it, and many people do it, is kind of we look at terms and chords of arrangement a little bit. So we start with kind of the most obvious form. If you have like a 4-note chord, like let's say a C major 7, we start with this position maybe many people call a 4-way close. Okay, a 4-way close means just like the chords closely, the chords it just means the chord tones stacked neatly next to each other. So in the case of C major 7, it's C, E, G and B, and in a 4-way close on the guitar that would be here. Okay, so that's the first chord you can know. That's one, and many people use that for just runs. But in general, that's a nice chord to know. So what can we do with this chord? The one thing you can do with pretty much every chord is inversions. However, we quickly run into problems here. Like, an inversion just means like we move the chord up, like function of the chord, like C, which is the root, in the next inversion becomes E, the third. E, which is the third, and the next inversion becomes the fifth, which is G, and so on. So if you do that, C, E, G, and B, your next chord starts on an E, G, B, and then C. So if you look at that on the guitar, so your next chord, okay, then I have an E up here. That's the fourth thing. Then I have a G, then a B, and then a C. Probably do it like this so the camera can see it. That's already a good chord, but that's kind of breaking my finger already. And you'll see with the 4-way close, if you go further, it only gets worse. For example, the next one would be G, B, C, and E. So if you look at that, G, B, C, and E, like you have to change a set of strings. I think you can do it probably here in the open position in this key. So you have G, B, C, and E. That kind of works. And then the next one would be B, C, E, and G, and that's fully out of reach. So one interesting thing about that is it explains a lot about the guitar. You don't ever see guitarists that often play 4-way close voicings, and part of that is that it's really a pain on the guitar. There's two reasons. Like drop 2 and drop 3 are really kind of the common sounds in jazz arrangement, but 4-way close on other instruments is used. Just on the guitar, if you listen to Joe Pass or Barney Kessel, they all don't use 4-way close all that much because those inversions are just painful. That brings us to the first thing we learn if you want to expand our chord vocabulary for C major 7. It's a drop 2 voicing. So what is a drop 2 voicing? We start again from this 4-way close voicing, and similar to when you ever watch like a guitar video, we give the guitar strings numbers often. Like we start on the E string 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, And with the drop 2 voicing, it's a similar story. We give each voice in the chord a number. The highest voice here, B, is number 1, G is number 2, E is voice 3, and the root is voice 4. So in the drop 2, we take the second voice and move it an octave down. So now we have G, C, E, and the B that was up here now suddenly goes over there. We just take it on the B string, so we have 4 adjacent strings, okay? So this gives us our first drop 2 voicings. In this case, C major 7 with a G in the bass, B on top for the melody note. So obviously with this we can do the same thing. We can learn all the inversions, and we have, like, on this set of strings with this chord, we have like 3 inversions and the root position, in which case we can go from G, now we have E in the bass. It's a really nice C major 7. I'm just moving each voice to the next possible. So here our G in the bass moves to the E, our C as the second voice moves to the B, our E moves to the C, and our B moves to the G. We get this. If you do that one more time, we get the chord that everybody knows, C major 7 here, and then you can do it one more time, and you get that with the 7th and the bass. So you get all these inversions, 4 different types on this set of strings. Now you can move that on every set of strings, and already you have lots of options. So you can, like, put that on the low set of strings. That's the same chord as this was, the low 4 strings. On the next ones, here. So you have 4 there on the E, A, D, and G string. Same thing goes for the D, G, B, and E string up here. You can move this voice here. Go all the way through. So you have 4 on each. A really good exercise Gila Texelman talks a lot about is go through all 12 keys and start always from the lowest possible note and play 3 per set of strings and go through all of them this way. So if you start with F major 7, you start with the lowest F here, then you go with the A in the bass, next one, then C in the bass, and after this third one you go to the next set of strings, E in the bass, 7th, root in the bass, F, 3rd in the bass, A, changing set of strings to C in the bass, to E in the bass, to F in the bass. And you didn't go through all of them on each set of strings because we have technically 4, but then if you change key, next one, circle 5th would be B flat, so we start here with the 5th, F in the bass, 7th, B flat, E, F, A, B flat, D, F. And if you go through that with all of the keys, it's a really good exercise, and you suddenly learn this chord all over the neck, and you have a lot of options. But that's only one, because no, drop 2 is not the only one. You can easily go then to the next one, which is drop 3. So we take the same principle, we take our 4-way close voicing, and now we take note number 1, 2, 3, our E, and drop that. And if you do that, we get this chord. Really nice. You see immediately it's a wider spread. It's not adjacent strings anymore. We have now a string in between that we don't play, the A string. And we have inversions there. Again, we have this. And then obviously in the next set of strings as well. So there we have less set of strings because we have a wider spread and it's a different sound. So there you kind of have 8 different options for a C major 7. Then you can go to the next thing in the arrangement world, which would be drop 2 and 3. So this time, again, 4-way close voicings, we drop both voices. We drop the G and the E. Okay, then we get something like this. It's the same spread as the drop 3 voicings, but we have a bit more of a cluster here in the lower noise voices. We get this. The next one is really nice. I love this. On all the other ones, we have this one here, and then my favorite, this one there. Okay, so drop 2 and 3, you have 8 different options. Then there's more exotic ones. Sometimes depending on the chord and depending on the voice used, you can drop a voice 2 octaves. So there would be a double drop 2, drop 3. We have a 4-way close, and we take the second voice, G, drop it 1 octave, drop it 2nd octave, and drop the 3rd voice, the E, just 1 octave. Then we get this chord. It's G, E, and then the root and our seventh stay the same. So we get this chord. That's a super wide spread, but it's a lovely chord for a C major 7. And obviously there's inversions for this as well. So, and then from there you would go, and then from there my favorite again. What this means is, first of all, thinking in terms of arrangement gives you a clear kind of roadmap what to work on. Like, okay, today I work on drop 2s, next week I work on drop 3s, the week after I work on drop 2 and 3s. It gives you a clear map what to practice. It gives you lots of options for a single chord. Like, I wrote it down somewhere. Like here we had, like, for C major 7 we have like 12 options in drop 2. We have 8 in drop 3, that's already like 20. Then we have 8 in drop 2 and 3, that's 28. And then we have like 4 in double drop 2, drop 3. The 32 options just for a C major 7 chord. It gives you a lot of options. It also gives, if you don't know him, check him out definitely. Pascal Grasso talks about that, how to use those things, because it not only gives you a lot of options, it also gives you a roadmap of how to use those options. For example, if you have like a voicing that's more close-minded, like in arrangement terms of not close-minded, close together, a 4-way close or a drop 2 is very often used when the melody moves quite fast, like in a chord melody, when we have like something like, if you have a melody that moves quite fast, we often use closed voicings. If you have something like an introduction to a piece where we have more space and time, he uses more of drop 3 voicings or drop 2 and 3 because they're wider, they have a different sound, there's a different mood to them. Those are all just considerations to not only give you numbers and notes, as in terms like, oh, play a drop 2 here, play a drop 3 there. It's more about all these chords you learn and all these voicings you learn have a certain sound and a certain function. Not saying that you always have to use them with this or that, but I'm just saying this can help you to make sense of them in your head. You still can use or should use books like the Ted Green book to find even more chords, but this I felt really helps you a lot to get loads of variety for one chord and make sense of make sense for you to use them in different contexts and to use them in a musical statement and with a purpose. I hope there wasn't too much rambling, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for checking it out anyway, and hopefully see you next week in the next one. Cheers.